Hello, hello. Thank you so much for tuning into this ASMR soft spoken video. Y'all, I am so sorry for my absence. I thought about this every single day. I hate not making a video. Everything got so busy, so I'm so sorry. I hate it, but I'm hoping I can be more consistent when my life calms down a little bit. So I'm just going to be doing a shorter case so I can just get something out. Today I'm going to be doing the Unsolved case of Kelly Disney. Kelly Lynn Disney was born in 1967. She grew up in Silts, Oregon. She was the oldest of Sam and Betty Disney. They had 4 children. So she had one sister named Angela and 2 brothers named Diane and Todd. In 1984, she was 17 years old and about to start her senior year at Newport High School. Before the school year had started, she began dating 19-year-old Robert Ellis. The relationship had advanced to the point where she had threatened to run away if her parents didn't give her permission to move into his apartment. They reluctantly agreed with the promise that she would finish her senior year. It was a different time, I guess, because ain't no kid of mine doing that. So in February of 1984, she moved in with Robert in a shared apartment. Kelly did see her family frequently after moving in. While going to school, she also worked at a pizza parlor while Robert had a job installing carpets. Her relationship with Robert was unhealthy. Robert frequently partied, and Kelly did not enjoy partying so much, which would frequently cause conflicts. So on March 7th, 1984, Kelly visited her family to drop off a birthday card. She informed her mother she could not be there the next day due to plans to attend a party and work out at the gym with a friend. On March 8th, 1984, Robert and Kelly had a low-key party at the apartment with people coming in and out throughout the night. It was reported that when they had fights, often one or both would leave the apartment. So on that night, the typical fight happens and Robert leaves. Kelly is at the apartment for a short period of time, still upset about the fight. Kelly leaves around 12:30 a.m. on March 9th. When Robert eventually returns to the apartment, the friends tell him that Kelly had left. Robert leaves and begins driving around searching for Kelly. Soon he finds her standing on Highway 20, just east of Highway 101. It's a cold, drizzly night, but Kelly refuses to get into the car with him, and eventually Robert drives off. This is the time when you don't even know what you want in a fight. You'll do things like this, and it's just such a weird, hard time. And I feel like I would do things like that when I was 17, because you just don't know how to go through conflicts. It's almost like conflicts is the way to show your love when you're young, and then as you get older you realize conflicts are a part of your relationship, but they do not indicate how much someone cares. It's just such a tough time. But so a short time later, two men on their way to their janitorial jobs see Kelly on the highway. They stop and offer her a ride, but she refuses. They drive and stop at a convenience store in Newport, where they bump into a police officer. They inform the police officer that there is a young woman standing on the highway alone, and the police officer calls in a dispatch. Sergeant Walt Brucha, a Lincoln County Sheriff's deputy, takes the call and drives towards the area reported and locates Kelly still standing along the highway at about 1 a.m. After back and forth discussions, Kelly refuses any help, insisting that she's going to a girlfriend's house located nearby. The sergeant eventually leaves, assuming she is close by to her destination. Investigators now believe there was only about a 15 to 20 minute window before she disappears. Robert had gone out several times throughout the night looking for her, as well as some of the friends. The next morning, Betty Disney came to the apartment that they shared, looking for her daughter. Robert thought Kelly had wound up at her parents' home that night. They find that Kelly had left her purse and ID at the apartment. Once parents found out she was missing, they filed a missing persons report. Police almost immediately took this as a runaway case. Her parents contacted the local volunteer fire department to search along the highway. They began a search of a 14-mile stretch and were unable to find any answers to where Kelly was. Over the next few days, Kelly's family organized several searches. The fire department did one. The sheriff's office conducted another, but nothing was found, and the case began bouncing back and forth between Newport Police and the sheriff's office. So apparently, at first, when the detectives believed that she had ran away, this was backed up by reports from a teacher and several students at the high school reporting that she had shown up to school the morning after she had supposedly been seen. Her parents held firm that she would not have ran away, especially without taking her purse, ID, and a recent paycheck from her job. Upon finding out that she was last seen on a highway, her mother found it very odd that Kelly would have asked for a ride by some stranger or went missing on purpose, because Kelly would always say that girls that hitchhiked were crazy, and she would never do something that dangerous. So it's not until she has been missing for about 2 months that detectives began to suspect that she was a victim of foul play. But months and then years go by and there's still no answers. On Monday, July 25th, 1994, 10 years after Kelly was last seen, a man walked into the Newport Police Department with a human skull. 2 days earlier, he had been driving his ATV behind Big Creek Reservoir east of Newport and stopped at an abandoned car in a known party spot for locals. He found the skull wrapped or covered with carpet. The man took it home, where his girlfriend advised him to turn it over to police. He tried taking it to the sheriff's office, but only the jail was open. Jailers told the man to take it to Newport Police, but it was Saturday and their office was closed. I want to pause for a second. First of all, I want to know what that conversation was like. You're dating someone. They're going in the backwoods, ATVing, cool. They come home with a fucking skull. A human skull. and you have to advise them to take it to the police. Anyway, and then I don't know what the setup was like. It was the 90s, but how did he talk to the jailers? Who again gave this man the most obvious advice. Anyway, so because the police department was closed, the man returned home. He then cleans the skull with dish detergent and puts it on top of his TV. Was this a living girlfriend? What the fuck is going on? I'm assuming I don't know. So, on Monday, he does turn it over to Newport Police. They use dental records and confirm that the skull belongs to Kelly. Upon examining the skull, they were able to see there was evidence of head injuries. Investigators then talked to local kids who had played in the car the day before the skull was found. Something detectives found suspicious is that the skull was found days after investigators had gone to local media to drum up more interest in this case. So, detectives believe that the skull was absolutely not in the car the day prior when the kids played in it. There was a strong feeling that someone had placed the skull there afterwards. Did we ever look into the Dawn dish soap guy? Just what? I'm not over it. Anyway, finding Kelly's skull 10 years after she disappeared created a new push to find her remains and her killer. Detectives focused on Robert, the boyfriend, who was now 56 years old and living in Seal Rock. But they weren't able to find any connections, and the case again went cold. In late July of 2020, her family put up 200 signs along U.S. Highway 101 and Highway 20 in Lincoln County and handed out 2,000 posters with the message, "Justice for Kelly Disney, 36-year-old murder case." New investigators were assigned to the case. Linda Snow and Ron Benson, the cold case investigators of the Lincoln County District Attorney's Office. After the flyers and the family involvement, they say the responses looked promising, and they were following up on at least 20 calls. But because there's no body and the skull was cleaned by a dumbass, it is highly unlikely the case will be solved through DNA evidence. That means someone will have to talk. So Robert was the focus of the Newport police and sheriff's detectives for 25 years, but he then refused to talk to the new cold case investigators when the case was handed over. Investigator Snow says, quote, "We have never interviewed him and he won't talk to us, but my gut and everything we found says he didn't do it. The case remains unsolved with the hope that there are answers soon." Her sister, Angela, says her sister's disappearance destroyed her tight-knit family. The Disneys divorced the same year the skull was found, and Stan Disney moved to Oregon City, where he died in 1997. Betty Disney, Kelly's mother, who is now 76, lives near Dobbs in Prineville and is no longer able to talk to investigators due to having so much distress over this. Danny Disney, her brother, went with his dad in Oregon City and lives in a different county. Todd, her brother, has spent much of his life in and out of jail and addiction treatment. So if there's any information that you may have, you can contact the Lincoln County cold case investigators by calling Linda Snow at 541-265-0284 or Rob Benson at 541-265-0271. Okay, so we'll get into the theories. The initial theory being that her boyfriend Robert had something to do with it. I guess the theory the original investigators had was perhaps he had come back after her interaction with the sheriff and there was foul play. The argument continued. Perhaps accidentally something occurred. I saw somewhere that there may have been a report that a woman was drunk on the highway and stumbling, so if both parties were drunk, I guess the assumption is something happened. It does feel like the new cold case investigators do not believe there's any involvement. I didn't see any further information on why, but it feels like this is not a common belief, especially now. So, one case connects her case to similar cases in the area. So Kelly was the first Newport girl to disappear, but not the last. On May 3rd, 1992, Melissa Standers, 17, and Sheila Swanson, who was 19, vanished after leaving a family campout at Beverly Beach State Park. 5 months later, hunters found the remains 20 miles east of Newport near Eddyville. Their bodies were badly decomposed, and the medical examiner could not determine how they died. On January 27th, 1995, Jennifer Essen, 15, and Cara Lees, 16, left a friend's house in North Newport and headed into town. More than 2 weeks later, their bodies were found north of the city, near Moolac Beach, covered in brush, and they had been strangled. Police wondered if there was a serial killer at work. They began focusing on each case to find any connections or answers, especially as technology advanced. Meanwhile, John Aykroyd, a state highway worker who worked in the Santiam Canyon but regularly traveled Highway 20 to the coast, was convicted of killing a woman who was jogging in Camp Sherman in 1993. Police developed connections to John Aykroyd and Melissa Standards and Sheila Swanson, who had disappeared in 1992. Authorities now believed they were picked up and killed shortly after they left their campsite by John Aykroyd. He died in prison in December 2016 without telling officials of any connections to the other killings, but there is a firm connection of their case to him. So many wonder if perhaps his killing spree had started with Kelly. Another theory is that she was met with foul play by one or more people she had known. Cold case investigators believe that on the night, 1 or 2 people Kelly knew or knew of picked her up along Highway 20, offering a ride. It may have been men that she knew from the community. Kelly then ended with a group of men who took her somewhere, sexually assaulted her, and then killed her. Apparently, the cold case investigators say that a number of men who told others they were there when Kelly was assaulted and had stated they wished they stepped in to stop it. The investigators' note says, "We do have this consistent line of stories that were there and that she had been killed. There's a single path that all these stories fall into. The last possibility is that this was a crime of opportunity. Someone had either offered a ride, and for some reason she took this one, or perhaps just forced her into the car, and this person is unknown. I don't mean to be that person, much detail. And I don't know if in the 80s they document, like, obviously now we would have some kind of like maybe body cam or something, but now, or in the 80s, I don't know. So that is the unsolved case of Kelly Disney, and I really hope that the new investigators are right and these answers will come soon. But I just wanted to share that story. I need to get back in this because I really enjoy it. So I'm so sorry again for my absence. I missed it so much and I'm really sorry. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you are having a good day or night wherever you are, and that you have a good day tomorrow. And I'll see you in my next video.